afternoon. This is Richard Massey with Civil Plus Structural Engineer magazine. And it's Friday morning, and I'm very excited because today I'll be talking with Kathleen Linehan, who has recently been named president of Alpha Corporation in Dulles, Virginia. And it's a woman-owned construction management and engineering firm. Kathleen, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining me. And I'm excited to talk with you about a broad range of issues. But before we jump off into that, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you went to Marquette University and George Washington University, correct? And that you were with Jacobs for quite a while, mega firm. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I started my career in the public sector, actually. I joined Federal Highway Administration right out of school and went all over the country in the Federal Highway Training Program and got exposed to some incredible projects along the way. And then later in life ended up landing in DC and built my life and my family there. And I went to work for the city government to help run the Anacostia Waterfront initiative there, and stayed at DC about 8 years, eventually ending up as the chief engineer of the DC Department of Transportation. And then found sort of a natural point at which to jump into the private sector. And I went to work for CH2M Hill and had a great career there. CH was then acquired about 2 years ago by Jacobs. And so that's been the course of my career. It's been a great run.
Great. Well, so DC ended up being pretty much the nucleus of your career. It
did, that's true.
Yeah, and DC has gone through some great transformations in the last 15, 20 years, correct, on the engineering and construction front?
Yeah, it's really been amazing in DC. I moved here in 1998, and the city was really just coming out of its financial insolvency and putting together a plan that allowed Congress to let them go back to running their own affairs. And so as part of that, the mayor at the time, Anthony Williams, put together a plan to revitalize a number of areas of the city, but the Anacostia Waterfront was one of the focal points. And so I was really lucky to be in a position to be part of a huge resurgence of the city. We were able to support building a tax base for the city, and by utilizing the federal highway program as a backbone for the public investment, we rebuilt the transportation program really throughout that part of the city. We've built a new 11th Street Bridge infrastructure. You see the South Capitol Street Bridge under construction now. That's part of that endeavor. And then all of the private investment that came, the baseball stadium, the wharf, everything you see in that southeast sector of the city, the resurgence of Ward 7 and Ward 8 and the economic strength that's coming to that side of the river, that was all part of what we started back in about 1999 on the Anacostia Waterfront Initiative.
Wow.
Really see it come to fruition.
So you're really at the ground level of that thing throughout.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a unique opportunity to get to start a program at its infancy and see it all the way into construction. We said at the time, and this is borne out to be reality, that really was a 20-year effort. And so, we were looking at all kinds of fundamental planning issues. Did we want the infrastructure to reflect the historic nature of the city? Did we want to stamp it as a new modern infrastructure? All those kinds of questions. Did we want to build freeways that took people, right across the city, or did we want to focus more on getting them integrated into the street grid of the city and balancing those kind of issues, building bridges across socioeconomic areas and making sure that the infrastructure was poised to support economic growth in the communities, not just the metro area of DC and getting people into and out of the cities, but building the communities of the District of Columbia themselves. So yeah, it was a huge engineering effort. We did all kinds of exciting technical things to make that happen, but being part of the resurgence of a city has just been really the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I'm glad you were able to speak to that. So, but you're still in DC, and work continues, and you're with Alpha Corporation now, but you had been with CH2M Hill slash Jacobs, obviously one of the biggest engineering and construction firms in the world, but now you're with Alpha, and so why did you make this change?
Yeah, I'm getting that question from some of my dear friends, and yet it's probably not what I was thinking my career was going to end up with, but it's been such a fantastic opportunity. As you said, I was with one of the biggest engineering companies in the world. Once Jacobs acquired CH2M Hill, they had 75,000 employees. There are other bigger companies, but the trend in the industry of the bigger companies becoming bigger and bigger is having a significant impact on how we all do work and how we interact with our clients. Uh, I don't have a single bad thing to say about my experience there. I loved CH2M Hill. I loved the acquisition process and Jacobs, and all that was very exciting. This opportunity to lead a company, especially a woman-owned company, is something that I didn't really foresee, but I'm thrilled to have ended up with. And once I really listened to the opportunity and paid attention, I couldn't not accept it. It's really a cool place. We're not a tiny company. We've
Right.
got about 200 employees. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary.
Yes.
It's a company with a rich history and has done some really exciting, iconic projects. And so, I think the opportunity to continue to grow this company is it's such a ripe opportunity, and there's so many fun things we can do here. We have an incredible staff, an incredible portfolio of projects. So the sky's the limit, really. It's a great position to be in.
Right, and obviously at Alpha, you're the president, and so, how has that adjustment taken place? I know you've just been named the president here in the last couple of months, but what's been the adjustment of working for this behemoth and then going to a 200-person firm where,
Yeah. That's a great question. It's a lot less change than I thought it would be, to be honest. In my last position at Jacobs, I was managing about a $450 million portfolio of the Mid-Atlantic transportation, water, and buildings projects. What that gave me was exposure to a broad set of markets, a broad geographic area, but it was still small enough that I was deeply engaged in delivering the projects and the client relationships and working through both technical and business issues. So it really hasn't been that big of a shift in terms of what I do on a daily basis. I'm still dealing with people, making sure that the projects are going well. I'm visiting clients to make sure they're happy with us and that we're delighting them in everything we do. And then I'm looking at the business interests and the setting priorities for how we grow, and looking at obviously the low-hanging fruit, what we're already good at, and building upon that, and then looking into things that maybe nobody has tried yet with this company, and figuring out where our skill sets might fit into new markets in ways that would be probably not that heavy of a lift.
Right. So certainly not status quo for you and the company in terms of where you're at. You're wanting to move forward with some growth.
No doubt about it. We're positioning for growth. We're looking at bringing in more top tier talent. We're looking at prioritizing the markets and figuring out where our skills are best applied. And we're looking at ways to leverage all of the technology in this Northern Virginia technology corridor that we're so fortunate to find ourselves in. We have an initiative called Alpha Labs, where we've actually set up a sector of our business specifically to work with developing technologies and help them implement in ways that's going to enhance our program management and construction management practice.
Oh, wow. Great. So you've got a lot going on. This is certainly not a glorified retirement for you. You're charging ahead.
Well, I'm a little too young for retirement, but I'm getting there. But no, it's not. I'm not relaxing in any way. There is all kinds of exciting things to do here, and you know, it's maybe the hardest part of my job right now is sorting through all of the opportunities that we have in front of us, because there's so many ways we can grow, and we're going through that strategic planning process now of trying to triage all of the great things we can do and discipline ourselves to grow in a targeted way.
Fantastic. So let's switch gears a little bit. Looking at construction management and just the boots on the ground, the labor crunch, the cost of construction these days. What are the big problems out there at that level of the industry that you think need to be fixed? I mean, where do the improvements need to come from?
Gosh, that's a very broad question. Let me think about
Yeah.
that for a minute. Um, you know, in our industry, and when I say our industry, I'm looking at both the private realm and the public realm. There's so much focus now on cost savings. Both clients and AE firms are dealing with availability of data that we never had before. And so it's changing the way people think. It's definitely changing the way a lot of our owners are procuring their work. I think some of us are concerned to make sure that excellence and quality is still factored in and still is demanded by our clients. There seems to be a tendency of commoditizing work in our industry, maybe to a way that, if we're not careful to keep that in check, may be detrimental to our industry down the road. We're not apples and apples. I think it's important, especially for companies like Alpha in the smaller to medium size, that in order to really provide the services that we think our clients need, there needs to be the flexibility in procurement to allow us to bring the high level of services that we feel the clients really need and would benefit from. It's sort of that old adage that you benefit so much more from money spent smartly up front when you're decision making, rather than trying to fix problems after they occur.
Right. So, and in your position, you're seeing this commoditization, and I've talked to other CEOs and presidents, and that's a real issue that's going on from the client end.
Yeah.
And they want to put eggs in the carton.
Yeah, that's right. They do. There's no question. We have the ability to deliver work more efficiently than we did in the past, and I think owners are right-minded in trying to get the best for their constituents, especially in the public world. So there's nothing wrong with that approach, but I think it's important that we all recognize that projects need to be procured in a way that's going to enable the right resources to deliver what's needed for that specific project.
Correct. So obviously that's something that you'll monitor and keep your eye on moving forward. And so, I was looking through your resume, and you've done so much in your career, but I wanted to ask you, the Anacostia Watershed Society.
Yeah.
Obviously, are you still involved with that organization?
I absolutely am, and it's a real passion of mine. The Anacostia Watershed Society has had such a significant impact on what's going on in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. That entity, along with others, was responsible for initiating the legal process that has now resulted in DC Water investing in all of the intercept tunnels that are going to reduce the raw sewage flowing into the Anacostia River and ultimately in the Potomac River as well. You see now Alexandria Renew also has an upcoming tunnel project. That's a game changer for the environment in our community, in our region. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of that organization. As we look at the accomplishments to date of that progress, 90% of the raw sewage flow into the river has been eliminated now. And this goal that we have of having a fishable and swimmable Anacostia River by 2025 is more than attainable. It's really just around the corner. So the mission of AWS is shifting a little bit. We're focusing on making sure that the attention continues to be on cleaning up the river and the riparian environment around it, and not dropping the ball, obviously, as things move forward. So public education is going to be a critical component of the mission of our organization moving forward. But Anacostia Watershed is an amazing organization and has a continuing mission moving forward that has great import in what we do every day.
Right, and how long have you been a member of that organization?
Oh, I've been a member for a number of years. I'm in my second year of serving as a board member on the Watershed Society. In fact, next week we have our Countdown to the River, our annual gala that we're excited about, and bringing together many of the stakeholders there. It's an organization that in the years that I worked for DC government, I collaborated with and partnered with throughout on the planning and development of the 11th Street Bridge and the infrastructure around it, and the South Capitol Street Bridge. They were a major stakeholder and brought a scientific and knowledgeable approach to working through a lot of the environmental and socioeconomic issues related to those projects. Really an important partner for the city in particular.
Right, and now looking at things like the Anacostia Watershed Society and the projects that you've been involved in DC prior to Alpha and with Alpha, what and having been went to school in DC, what's your network like there? I mean, I would imagine that you're pretty keyed into a lot of what's going on there.
Well, I try. It's the city I live in. My network is broad as well. I've been involved in AASHTO for many years, and I've spent a good bit of my life working with my counterparts in other state DOTs across the country as well. A lot of us have similar issues, and it's important for us to continue to compare notes. But in DC, there's no question the ability to network across boundaries beyond the engineering world, with the developers, with the land use decision makers, with the politicians and the business owners. It's so critical that all of those entities are working in tandem to try to solve problems. No one group alone can deal with the magnitude of what it takes to run a city and a metropolitan area like the Washington, D.C. metro area.
Right. Well, fascinating. So, I mean, you're embedded in that community.
I try to be. It's an important community to me. I live there. My kids have gone to school here, and I'm invested in this community, and it means a lot to me. The work that I do every day is really focused on how it affects communities and how it affects the people who use the infrastructure we build every day. That's what we're here doing.
Sure. Well, let's move into women in STEM.
Yeah.
It was mentioned in your press release, so obviously that's very important to you, and you have a major high-profile leadership role now with Alpha, and you did with your former firm. So, what are you hoping to do on that front with women in engineering industry?
Yeah, so this is such an exciting time. It's interesting. I graduated from my undergrad engineering degree in 1991. And as I look at the statistics, they really haven't changed much since then. Now, in all fairness, the computer tech industry has taken a lot of our STEM-focused women.
Oh, yeah.
With good reason. There's a lot of excitement in that industry. But in engineering, we've been kind of slow and steady. There's of the practicing engineers, about 13% are women. We're still graduating only about 20% of the classes are women. And the keeping women in the field has not been all that successful.
That's where, you know, our research at SWAG Group, let me interject here, that's a big issue, is women get into the industry, but then a lot of them leave, not too much longer after that. Why
Yeah,
is
that's right. And yet the numbers belie the reality that we're living every day. I can tell you that as I'm looking at big projects and some of the big decision makers in the region, there's some women playing incredibly important leadership roles there. I've had a few big proposals over the last couple of years where I kind of smile looking at the team we've put together and realize how much women leadership actually is happening naturally. But in the aggregate, there's no question we need to be attracting more women younger. We need to be encouraging young girls to go into science and math and be more open to that. And we need to find ways for the industry to be a more attractive workplace for women throughout their career. I think there's a number of ways we can do that. Some of it's natural, some of it's happening through societal changes and what people consider acceptable for themselves and acceptable in the workplace. I think we've all gotten smarter about diversity in general and welcoming different ways of doing things and different mind frames and the diverse attitudes and ideas that come in to solve problems. We've made huge strides there. Perhaps where we need to continue to work, you know, big projects in particular, when you work on big projects, it can be difficult to manage family because you have to be where the project work is sometimes. And I still see in the engineering world in particular, moving people around is a critical component of how we're handling our business. We've got to get better at that. We've got to be able to allow people to contribute in a significant way without necessarily creating work environment that impedes on their life as much as it does currently. And that's true for men as well, by the way.
Sure. Yeah. Of course. Well, and real quick, I mean, how did you get into engineering? What drew you to this type of work?
I just enjoyed it, to be honest. I don't think, you know, I was particularly good at math when I came out, and I had higher SAT scores in math than I did in verbal. A lot of the colleges piqued my interest by suggesting that engineering might be a good path for me. And I didn't really know what it meant at the time, but I explored it and it suited me very well. I think there is, you know, some of us enjoy a little bit more rough and tumble world. There's no question that the construction environment can be, you know, a little bit more challenging emotionally, requires a little bit more confidence and a little better understanding of who you are and what you bring to the table. Both men and women are capable of stepping up to the plate and living in that environment. So I don't think it's out of reach for so many people. I think if we get enough people going into the field, learning math and science skills and coming out of school with the right degrees, it's going to continue to grow.
Right. Yeah. And that's the hope. And I think that the opportunity is really there now, where the opportunity wasn't really there, you know, back in the 80s when I was coming up. I mean, it just,
That's right.
I mean, times have changed, but you know, a lot of times time just changes slowly, it seems like.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm a big advocate of programs that advantage small and minority businesses because let's face it, it does actually incentivize people going into the industry who would not otherwise. And I think we've seen that be quite successful in a lot of both the federal small business incentives as well as at the local level. So it's working. We're not ready to take those kind of incentives away. They're an important part of the industry, and I think they will continue to be for some time yet.
Great, and good. I appreciate you speaking so eloquently to that. And so this kind of gets back into something that you had spoke about earlier. You know, this is a 200-person, 40-year-old firm in a prestigious market like DC. So coming in as the new president and coming in from outside the firm, what's the legacy that you feel like you have to uphold and maintain with Alpha Corporation?
Yeah, it's a great legacy. Alpha Corporation has done some really amazing work over the years. Really started it focusing on claims analysis and claims avoidance. And that's a line of work that we continue to hold dear and will continue to foster and build upon. It's really that high-end project management services that we want to bring to our clients, and that's what we get most excited about. And then we've, had the opportunity working with some of our key clients to do some incredible projects. The firm delivered the renovation of the St. Louis Arch a few years ago.
Right.
We managed the returfing of the National Mall. We've had the opportunity to partner with some of our clients to do just really fabulous things that make a significant mark in the industry. And that's what we want to continue to do. We love supporting our clients in their bread and butter work and the things that they need to get done to continue their program and to, ensure state of good repair throughout their worlds. But we also love being part of the game changers and the high profile projects that really challenge our technical skills and allow us to show what we really can do.
Great. Well, I hear the steely confidence in your voice. You're certainly up for the challenge of leading this firm into the future. So, Kathleen, I feel like we've had a fantastic interview, but is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I would just say, Richard, that this industry right now is such an exciting place to be, whether you're a woman or a minority of any kind. The opportunities are limitless. There's a lot of infrastructure spending now. There's going to be significantly more in the future. And our society needs the best thinking that we can bring to the table. There's no doubt we need to continue to get better at taking care of our natural resources. We need to take care of how people live within the natural environment. And our population is not going to go down any. We're going to continue to be challenged to accommodate more and more people in denser and denser urban areas. And so we have to be creative. And I just think that poses an incredibly exciting and fun challenge for us all.
Great. Well, Kathleen, it's been a pleasure talking with you this morning, and I wish you nothing but the best, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Richard. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.